So I introduced the story. Now Galloping Ghost, give us a little information on it. It's in suburban Chicago. I said it's one of the largest arcades in the country. Is that correct? What more do we know about it, or should we know about it?
Well, it's in Brookfield, Illinois, which is about 20 miles from downtown Chicago as a bird flies. It's been open since 2010, and I guess technically it's the second largest arcade, but it's the largest one exclusively devoted to video games.
And not beer, right?
No beer.
Yeah.
The strongest thing you can get is maybe a Monster Energy drink or a Mountain Dew.
We'll take that. Let's go put the slideshow up here real quick. We've got a couple slides from your article here. Now, are you located in Chicago? Where are you based out of?
Yeah, I'm in northwest suburban Chicago.
Give us a picture of, okay, so here's the look of the arcade. Why did you decide to do a feature on this story in particular?
A couple things. One, we're always looking for there's a couple of us on Ars that are based out of Chicago, and we're always looking for interesting local stories to report on. And also, I'm a child of the 1970s and 80s, so I grew up playing these machines. So, hey, an excuse to go play classic video games on the company's dime, it was too good to pass up.
Yeah, it's the story of our lives here at HD/Twin Galaxies. Let me ask you a couple quick questions, though. The arcade scene, in your article you mentioned that it is making something of a resurgence, particularly in the barcade realm. Do you ever see the arcade being anything close to what it was back then, outside of the barcade kind of atmosphere?
Outside of having to have beer and chips and fries to get the people in there?
Yeah, I don't know. The barcade scene is pretty compelling because, obviously there's beer and fried foods and video games. So I think that'll reel in more the casual gamer. But the kind of the hardcore arcade scene that we saw in the 1980s, I'm afraid that's probably never going to see any sort of huge resurgence.
But let me ask you, we're a Twitch show, and I don't know how much time you spend on Twitch. How much would you compare your experience in the 80s in arcade? I mean, we're kids that were born in the 80s in respects. Like, I was 85, he was 83. To us, we know Twitch. To us, that's kind of like the modern day. Yeah, that's like the modern day arcade.
Well, I think I'd relate with Eric a lot in the fact that I didn't go to. Tilt was a big deal in Arcata, California, where my godparents are at, and I'd go up there, and I would spend summers and winters and everything at the arcade, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. It's so sad when a Tilt closes, or the local arcade closes, or they get filled up with ticket machines, and you lose like the Pac-Mans and stuff like that. Because it's odd that I find more and more newer games in arcades, or not even newer games, just fighting games in general. Arcades seem to just be just the old school arcades are just getting harder to find. I don't know if it's because they're breaking down, or the popularity, or maybe it's regional.
Well, I think part of it. There's a number of reasons. I mean, one, you've got a finite supply of really old arcade machines, and they've got CRTs and old boards and things like that. And so when stuff breaks, it's hard to fix. I mean, at Galloping Ghost, they've got a parts room with a number of CRTs and boards, and the owner's got a lot of expertise working on these. So when something breaks, they can get it fixed pretty easily. A lot of other places just don't have that sort of expertise. So, I think that's one of the big reasons that we're never going to go back to the heyday of the 80s. And the other thing that's changed is the arcade/console experience is reversed from what it was in the 80s. Yeah. So in the 80s, I had a Mattel Intellivision. My next door neighbor had an Atari 2600. And we were all excited about the ColecoVision and the Atari 5200 coming out. But if we wanted a really graphically rich video game, the really only option was to go to the arcade. And now your PlayStation 4, Xbox One have, and even your PC, if you're a PC gamer, has this incredible graphic richness and story and sound design that the arcade really can't match up to these days.
Was there one arcade at the Galloping Ghost that you were looking for and you found? Is there one there that's like the powerhouse everyone was playing, or the most rare?
Well, they've got a couple of the specialty there is fighting games. They have every version of Mortal Kombat ever released. A lot of obscure Japanese fighters I'd never heard of, and that's not really my thing. The two times I were there were on weekday afternoons, so it wasn't terribly populated. But, there was some action on Pole Position and Centipede, some of the the early 80s, mid 80s classics.
A couple of comments in our chat here. People are saying, I worked at, Domini says, I worked at a Chinese restaurant and would trade food for tokens at the arcade.
Yeah, my
Sure,
brother,
yeah.
my
Will,
brother used to work at the movie theater, and we were siphoning as many coins as tokens as we could to play there. We also got Dave and Buster's. JTV Plays Games. To saying Dave and Buster's is keeping it alive a little bit.
Here's a comment for you too. Someone says convenience killed the arcades. Mitten Kid says that in chat. A couple more questions for you. We know we got to let you go real quick, Eric, but we're going to go to a commercial break for like 7 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah, hang in there tight for us. Guys, this is exciting. We've got Eric on the line here. You're watching the Twin Galaxies Network. We'll be back here in literally 7 seconds.
Keep all those keep the chat coming in.
Keep them coming hot.
Twin Galaxies.
Legion says this show killed arcades. This show killed other things, definitely not arcades. Don't draw us down there. But what to you is that I alluded to earlier? I feel like Twitch has become the digital or the global arcade in a lot of ways. You sit and you watch other people play video games.
Yeah,
no?
I wouldn't say that.
How do you respond to that, Eric? I mean,
Well, I think there's a parallel. Obviously, when I was in the arcades in the 80s, if there was someone just dominating Defender or Joust or one of the other games that I wasn't really great at, and someone was actually going on some sort of epic run, then there'd be people crowding around, peering over his shoulder, seeing his insane display of skills. So I think there's a bit of a parallel, but the community aspect was much more local. It was you and the people right in the arcade with you, as opposed to Twitch and the internet, where you're participating in this communal experience with people who are all over the world.
Vinetzer in our chat says, I've never been in an arcade and it makes me sad every time I think about it. It's nuts to think that people have never been to an arcade.
Yeah, and Eric brought up, like, it hit the nail on the head perfectly. Back in the day, you'd see somebody smashing through a game.
Yeah.
And you would just stand there, and you wouldn't even put your quarter up to play him because you know you'd get smoked too. You just would watch a guy just decimate a game, and that is a lot, like, that's Twitch. That's Twitch. Watch the best people.
Speedrun guys and
watch the
League
best
of Legends.
people jump on there and play the games how they're meant to be played.
Final question for you, Eric, because we have to let you go. How familiar were you with Twin Galaxies, obviously? Did you know we were even around again?
Yes, a little bit, just through conversations with the gamers at Ars. Peter Bright, one of our technology editors, is a massive Twitch fan, and then obviously you guys had Sam on recently. So, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for joining us back on the program here. Very interesting article. We've got it posted in the chat here if you guys want to post it again, our mods. And also, you're pretty active on Twitter, right? If people want to follow you along, follow your articles, this is the best way to do it?
Yeah, at Eric Bangeman on Twitter.
And you're a rugby guru too, huh? You're a rugby referee, is that correct?
Yeah, I play a little bit in referee. Well, I'm having a knee replacement in the fall. So
obviously, because
rugby, they still expect you to be out on the field, though, right?
Exactly.
You still got the other one, so there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for joining us. Great article, great look into arcades. And, thanks for letting us throw it back on Thursday.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
No choice but to take a stand. I don't care if I'm wrong or right. All I do is stand and fight.
That's awesome.